I'm Elsa here with Bright Agritech, and I'm talking with Birke Baehr today. And Birke is a youth advocate for sustainable food systems and bringing that into our education system. But Birke, do you mind giving our viewers a bit more background and what you've done and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, totally. So for the past 5 years, I started my journey in organic activism and traveling around the U.S. and internationally, spreading my knowledge about what I've gained and learned about the organic food system. I really am trying to raise awareness about GMOs, pesticides and herbicides, and really overall creating awareness in our culture. So far, I've noticed that as basically human beings, we've lost touch with our food, and regaining that relationship with our farmers is such a strong relationship. It needs to be reconnected and just keep it from being such an underrated subject, and start that dialogue back up again about food and make it like a central part of our homes where we're at.
So what are some themes and messages that you are going to take from this expo and bring to other people and students?
I feel like one of the biggest messages I can pull from this expo is that as a movement we're continually growing. I was here at this expo last year, and just to see they had to open up a whole other hall for vendors and exhibitors was like, wow, like it's growing every year. And that there's so many powerful people that are convening in this one spot every single year. Like I saw Jeffrey Smith, Ronnie Cummings, Lonnie Hari all here at the expo this weekend and this week. It was like, wow, there's so much power here and so much knowledge and wealth that as a culture we're growing and we're spreading constantly. And eventually we're going to overtake the money that's been constantly battling us, and that's the only reason why we haven't won this battle already, is because there's been so much money against us. But the manpower definitely goes over it. We have so many more people supporting what we're doing. So showing that we have the manpower and we have the majority of just overall work, we can overcome it. Definitely.
Awesome. Cool. So if you're in a city, what are some ways that you can get involved and get more healthy food to consumers?
I feel like things like urban gardens are one of the best ways of starting in cities. If you look at like what Will Allen's doing in Milwaukee with his whole growing power organization, like he's on an eighth of an a quarter acre there, and he produces tens of thousands of pounds of organic vegetables year round in Milwaukee, which is like freezing temperatures, feet of snow. You know, it's not a very warm environment. And so showing like the types of systems that are in place there is the best way of having people from the inner city be able to connect with their food. Also with the Gervais family in Pasadena, like that's basically urban farming at its best. You're able to pull tens of thousands of pounds of vegetables basically in a concrete jungle, and being able to still show people that grow up in really heavily urban environments, and like this is where your food comes from, and creating that connection.
Right. Cool. So to wrap up, what are the biggest lessons you've learned from farms across the U.S. That you can tell our viewers?
I feel like the biggest lesson that we need to learn as basically consumers, and then look at farms and take that message away, is that so many people over the past 10, 20 years in this movement have been shouting sustainable farming, and we really can't sustain those systems that we've been in, and especially sustain where we're at now, because there's been so much pollution and things from the past systems of farming, and basically all this big monoculture, single crop farming for thousands of acres. We can't sustain the pollution that's been left over. So what we need to be looking at now is the remediation, and try to regenerative farming, and try to rebuild and regrow what we've taken away from the earth after so many years. So that's the next step. That's the next definitely the next part that we need to be looking at as a culture.
Big step.
Big step, but it's happening.
And
there's things in crops like right now that are being able, like carbon sequestration, that are being able to pull carbon out of the air and put it into the ground through organic matter and things like that.
So it's an exciting time to be in food.
Yeah, it's exciting to see all these changes just come out here. We're definitely on the winning side, if there is one. I feel like just as a culture, as a human race, it's as simple that food is so important and integral as who we are in our everyday life, that it's what we need to be focused on as our next step forward. You know, the UN just released a statement that small-scale organic farming is the only way to feed the world. And I feel like as a movement, we've already believed that for so long, but to see some big organization like the UN talk about that is amazing to see finally get the recognition. So we're stepping forward, and we always need to think 3 steps ahead of where we're going. So as we step into the next space, we definitely see the future coming onto us.
Awesome. Well, it's very exciting, and we really appreciate your time and visiting us here at the Expo. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It was great to meet you too.